Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the second channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Of course, on the main, we're always covering the meta weapons and the best meta loadouts, right? Pretty much on a daily basis. And from time to time, we drop in and look at various different weapons here as well. But today, I wanted to focus on some guns that are, in my opinion at least, pretty underrated because their stats and the way that they compare against some of the other main meta weapons is surprising to say the least. Like the TTK and the overall versatility and just competitiveness of these guns is actually super solid. So we're gonna dive into it. If you enjoy the video, do me a favor, drop a like. And if you guys are new to this channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the more bonus style content that we're posting here. So first up, we're going to start on true game data, and there's a couple of different mid to long range weapons I want to look at. And then I also want to look at one specific close range weapon as well. And of course, we'll be breaking down the overall loadouts and setups for those as well. But we got a handful of rifles here to start things off. The Cast-Off 7.62, which as we know is widely considered to be the #1 rifle in the game just because of its power and its damage output. Its long range TTK is best in class. The M13B, one of my personal favorites, very solid, very consistent, has been for some time. Lockman 5.56, super low recoil. M4, one of the underrated guns I want to focus on here today because it is reliable, it's consistent, it's super straightforward. STB is also one of the underrated guns I want to look at here today, one that I think is seriously slept on. Then the 5.45, another pretty low recoil, very standard option. And if we go down and we look at, of course, 300 health, so max health, max plates, and then combination shots for the most accurate TTK, this is the graph that we are met with. And you'll see that, yes, the Cast-Off 7.62, absolute beast throughout, as we know. M13B, absolute beast throughout. But what you might not realize is just how competitive the M4 and the STB each are in their own respect here. Now, the M4 over super long range, you get out to 50, 60, 70 meters. Technically speaking, it's going to be outgunned by the STB, the 7.62, and the M13, depending on your accuracy, of course. But on paper, it's just behind those. It's not drastically far behind, but it is a little bit slower. Really, where I feel like the M4 is underappreciated, though, is this late early range and the entirety of its mid range, right? Like, it's actually super competitive here against some of the other top options, which basically means that, for resurgence and for a more versatile style of play, the M4 is very, very consistent. You can build this out to be more snappy and aggressive. And in this close range, if you're fighting at 20 meters, 30 meters, it's going to have a phenomenal TTK. If you want it to be more consistent as like a sniper support build, you could do that. And in this 20 to 45 meter range, it's going to be really consistent there too. So the M4, despite being, just like that standard old reliable weapon that is fun because it's the M4 but isn't like the #1 most dominant gun, is actually surprisingly competitive. And then the STB, you want to talk about a versatile weapon, this thing is it, especially because it's so easy to use, right? So in the close range, early mid range, it's going to be there, it's going to be nice and competitive, right? But then in that mid range, it really starts to thrive, having the best TTK technically at some points here in the mid range, and being #2, #3 for a bit here as well. And then over long range even as well, when you get to 60 meters and beyond, the third best TTK, just behind the M13 and the 7.62. But it might actually have the best TTK for you, because if we look at the recoil stats here, the yellow dots are STB, and that's basically the second, maybe arguably first easiest recoil pattern here, with the 5.45 really being the only thing that's in contention with it. 7.62 absolutely has the most here. The M4s are green line. It's pretty straightforward and very predictable as well, which also is a huge benefit for that. But the STB and the M4 each, they can hold their own surprisingly well, and really their pick rate should probably be a little bit higher. And then focusing on the close range here, we got a handful of SMGs listed, obviously some top tier options like the Vaznev, the MP5, the ISO, the Vel, but the Fennec. We know that for Warzone 2's first little while, the Fennec was the SMG, was the RPK in the Fennec. That's what everyone was running. And then this has been nerfed a little bit since, but it's been adjusted recently with some buffs that actually make it a bit more competitive. And now when we look at the stats, it's actually also surprisingly good, like probably in a way that you did not realize. This is a way better weapon than you think. Now, yes, in those first 8 meters, that's where it was hit the hardest throughout its nerfs a while back, and it's never really recovered from that. But then outside of the 8 meters, it's consistently the #2 or #3 fastest TTK here, just behind the ISO and the Vel. And depending on how you build it, the Fennec could be way more aggressive for, 10 meters, even 20 meters there. Of course, its damage per mag is going to be super lacking, and that's what really keeps it in check. But if you're looking for another SMG to add to the arsenal and you haven't been using the Fennec, you're doing yourself a disservice, because it can outgun the Vaznev, it can outgun the MP5, and it's right there with the ISO, which we know is like the best of the best for the subs right now. So getting into the actual loadouts here, first with the M4, this in my opinion is a really solid versatile setup. You could use this in that mid-range. You could also adjust this a little bit more even if you wanted to focus more on that late early range, early mid-range, right? But for the most versatile build, this is the one that I've talked about a bit on the main as well. AMOP V4, standard optic, of course, but it works. It gets the job done. It's going to be nice and clean there. 60 round mag, but if you're going for more sniper support, maybe you would want to jump down to 45 just to be a little bit snappier, but the fire rate here is kind of fast still in the grand scheme of things. So 60 is going to be nice and reliable, and you won't have to worry about that too much. High velocity ammo, I like that better feel for that mid-range and long-range hit detection. Basically, the consistency there is nice, but if you're solely focused on just the mid-range, you could drop this out for maybe a more aggressive stock, even like a 7mm laser. A barrel, if you wanted to as well, could work well for that too. So there are definitely some options to mess around there. Ripper under barrel, nice and consistent, gonna make that recoil pattern even more predictable. And then Harbinger suppressor, it's gonna offer a little bit of better range, better velocity, and better control on there too. So you can go a lot of different routes with exactly how you want the M4 to feel, which is very nice, and it's going to be successful in all ways. Now for the STB, this is that sort of mid to long range build that personally I'm a big fan of, and as we saw, it's just so easy to use that anyone can pick this thing up and they're gonna do well with it, right? So I like the AMOP V4 yet again. If there's a different optic that you prefer more, that you're more comfortable with, of course, go ahead and use that. The drawback of the STB, and maybe the reason why it doesn't have a higher pick rate, is this 42 round max. This is the largest magazine extended mag option, which is a bummer, because if this was 50, if this was 60, it might be the best rifle in the game, honestly, because of how easy it is to use, but this definitely keeps it in check, which is a bit unfortunate. Again, I like high velocity here, but if you want that more aggressive feel, a laser, you know, a comb, a rear grip for better mobility or something could work really well too. The rear guard barrel for the better range and velocity, straight up just going to make it better for that mid to long range area. And then the Harbinger D20 yet again for all the same reasons as over on the M4. A weapon, like I said, it's just so fun because you can drop into this thing, just mess around, and it's going to be so easy that you don't have to work to get kills. And then lastly, for the Fennec, this is just a nice snappy and aggressive loadout. Obviously, we want to focus on that later first damage range, that early second damage range, basically, where it was really competitive. 45 round mag is an absolute must have here. Obviously, with this fire rate, even 45 is not enough. You really need a 55 or a 60 here to have a good chance of taking out multiple players at a time without it getting a little mixy with the reloading there, but just keep that in mind for sure. Rubber rear grip, better ADS, and sprint to fire, obviously just helping out with that mobility. The Loctite stock here for the better sprint speed and ADS speed. There's some solid ones in general. The Assault 7 is also a pretty solid option if you wanted to go for this as well. That'd be a great choice. 7mm laser, snappier ADS, and sprint to fire. And then there is a little bit of shake, a little bit of bounce with the irons here, just because it is that fast fire rate weapon. So I like the KT85 compensator. You could also use like a flash hider as well if you wanted to. That'd be a good choice. But I mean, this thing definitely is underrated and slept on right now with that faster TTK, as we saw on the graph. But that being said, I mean, all these weapons really truly shine more than I think they're given credit for. Would highly recommend, if you're looking to just spice things up with your gameplay, drop in with one of these and see how you like it. That is going to do things for this video though. If you enjoyed it, do me a favor, drop a like on it, would be really appreciated. And if you're new here, you want to guarantee you're always up to date with all the new videos that I post here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out.